everybody. Welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you today on WJOP-LP Newburyport at FM 96.3 on Channel 9 and on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube station at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and today I'm just delighted to welcome Myra Dissette and Myra Suraci. They're here this morning to talk about plans for the inaugural Port Gingerbread Festival, a collaboration with Greater Newburyport Village as presenting sponsor, which they hope will become an annual holiday tradition. So first of all, Mary and Myra, welcome to both of you, and thank you for taking time to visit the morning show today.
Thanks for having us, Mary.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Well, let's begin at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What is the Port Gingerbread Festival? Tell us about it.
All right. The Port Gingerbread Festival is, first of all, a gingerbread contest. We say gingerbread house contest sometimes, but it doesn't have to be houses. So we'll get into that a little bit more later. It is a celebration for the community. It's a great time to just get people together and have fun. And we're hoping to bring out all of the creativity that we know exists around the Greater Newburyport area with all this inspirational architecture and lots of art of all different kinds going on. We're just asking people, think about putting your dreams into gingerbread and sugary stuffs and presenting it at this festival for everyone to enjoy.
Sugary stuff is synonymous with the holidays after all.
It is.
So what's not to love?
That's right. So the festival is taking place the second weekend of December. It will start on Friday evening, which is December 8th, and go through Sunday afternoon, December 10th. And
Wonderful.
It's happening at Central Congregational Church. They've given us a very nice space, and it's right downtown. It's located right behind the city parking garage, and the address is 14 Titcomb Street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more, Mary. Will this festival be also a fundraiser as well as you say, a fundraiser?
Yes, a fundraiser and a fundraiser. So the presenting sponsor, as you said, Mary, is Greater Newburyport Village, and I'll tell you a little bit about that organization too. But the proceeds from this event are going to the meal program at St. Paul's Church, which is called Among Friends. And I love what their slogan is. They say that they welcome all who are seeking food or fellowship.
That is a wonderful slogan.
Yes, and that's an all-volunteer program.
Yeah.
It's been going for years. I think, excuse me, it's about 30 years it's been going. And they are currently serving more than 100 meals 3 times a week to people. So this festival is going to offer free admission for people. There's no fee to enter the contest, no fee to see the exhibition, but we will invite donations.
Wonderful.
And the proceeds will go to the Among Friends meal program.
It's such an important resource and such a good cause. Absolutely.
It is, yes.
Well, so you're raising funds for an excellent cause, but okay, now, why gingerbread? What's the appeal? Explain it to us.
Over to Myra for that one, huh?
Gingerbread is reminiscent of a simpler time. And whether you are creating a gingerbread piece or admiring one, it stirs the imagination. And it brings about a sense of wonder and magic to the holiday season. And I feel like that applies to adults just as well as children.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. It applies to adults because part of the holidays is remembering our childhoods.
Exactly. Yes.
And what was magical and wonderful, and gingerbread houses often played a role in that. So, well, building on what you've just been saying about the magic and the wonder of the holidays and of gingerbread houses, why do you think baking, and especially baking shows and contests, my personal favorite, of course, is the Great British Baking Show, and they frequently do. They use gingerbread construction all the time on that show. But what do you think has led to a kind of a upsurge in the popularity of baking shows and contests?
Well, baking is challenging.
Well, that becomes clear if you watch the Great British Baking Show.
Yes.
There's many a good intention that winds up in utter failure and collapse.
There are a lot of details in the process.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it appears. Some of the details that I've worked through are the exact ingredients, the type of the brand. baking time, cooking time, cooling time, the best way to assemble a house. And I feel like when you watch a baking show, you connect with other bakers, you see their struggles, you see their successes, and they're often inspiring and informative. Sometimes you take notes and say, oh, I don't do that.
Yeah.
And other times you pick up tips and you say, that's a good idea, I need to try that.
Yeah.
And a lot of viewers of these baking shows, I think, are non-bakers too. But it's fun. I think it's because it's a cozy kind of activity, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're not a baker yourself, you can enjoy it vicariously by watching other people do it.
Yeah, that's true, Mary. Good point. Yeah. And you can enjoy watching people do it, but you don't have the tension of worrying about how it's going to, will it stand or will it fold?
And you don't have to clean up the mess.
Yes, Myra, you don't have to clean up the mess. That's right. Well, let's talk about gingerbread houses in particular. Can you tell us a little bit about their history?
Sure. Gingerbread has been around for a very long time. It's referenced through many countries throughout Europe. It's part of their culture, their history, their traditions. A very brief summary is in the 10th century, Gregory Macquart introduced gingerbread to the French.
Oh, my.
In the 16th century, Queen Elizabeth I had gingerbread made for her guests.
I had no idea.
And in 1812, the Hansel and Gretel story was published, and that kind of popularized the gingerbread house. And then in the 19th century, the German immigrants brought gingerbread house decorating to America.
Well, that is a long and impressive history. I had no idea gingerbread had been around for that long.
And this is just really a very brief summary.
But it gives a sense of how far back they go.
Worldwide.
And they're international.
Yes.
And they're historic.
Right. And then there was the opera or operetta, Hansel and Gretel,
Oh, yeah.
which was, I think, in the 1880s.
Yeah.
Engelbert Humperdinck, the composer.
Right.
Yeah, and it's got a beautiful aria in it that the children sing when they're lost in the forest. But I think that the popularity of that opera in the late 19th century gave gingerbread houses a big boost.
Oh, that's really
too.
interesting, Myra. I'll have to look up that aria.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Well, so gingerbread houses became a popular decoration for the holidays. And as we've been talking about, a very popular activity for home bakers. But now, honestly, some people are intimidated at the prospect again. And a lot of people have tried, sometimes in public on the Great British Baking Show, and then they become discouraged if their house falls apart. What's a baker to do?
Well, here's where we need to talk about royal icing.
Which they do all the time on the Great British Baking Show. And I'm never sure exactly what it is.
Yeah,
I
we
will
really
learn.
need to talk about royal icing.
Okay. So the recipe that we use has been pretty much no fail. It's very easy to mix. It has a few simple ingredients. I'm going to share the recipe with you. It's a 2-pound bag of confectioner's sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of cream of tartar, and 3/4 of a cup of pasteurized egg whites.
Okay.
And everything goes into the mixer. You can't overmix it. You mix for about 5 to 7 minutes. The consistency should be where it's easy to pipe through, easy to pipe with a piping bag.
Yeah.
You're not struggling and squeezing very hard, but it should not be too runny. And basically you would if you have a slight error with your measuring or whatnot, you just adjust with a confectioner's sugar.
Until you get the consistency that will go through the bag easily and efficiently.
Yes.
Okay, well that sounds doable, Myra.
It is very doable.
And that's your mortar, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's the mortar for the house, and it's a joy to work with when you are decorating. You
Okay.
can put fairly, I say, large candies or food items on with confidence. They stick, they hold, and that's when decorating becomes fun. There's nothing more discouraging than you put something on your house and you just watch it slide down.
And
It's
your
very
mortar has
disheartening.
failed.
Yes.
So with royal icing, you've got a good shot at getting the
You do.
candies to stick in
Yes.
place and look the way you've been hoping and wanting it to.
Yes.
I will say, too, that I don't know that a piping bag is essential if what you're going to do is assemble a house. You can do it with a knife, too. Just spread it on.
Absolutely.
I didn't have a piping bag until probably my 3rd year of doing this.
Okay.
But when I got one, then I was hooked, and it makes it so much more fun. So I do recommend them. And you can just take a heavy-duty plastic bag from the grocery store,
yeah.
like a freezer-type storage bag, and just put your icing in and snip the corner off the bag, and you can just quickly make a piping bag. You don't have to, buy, specific piping bags.
So you can improvise.
You can improvise until you get until you get the bug, and you really want to go and buy yourself.
Once you got the bug, you're going to want a bag.
That's right. I think you will.
Well, let's talk about different styles of building.
Okay.
Because I know there's a lot of variety, and we're going to see some variety in a little bit. But do each of you have distinct styles, building styles for your constructions?
Well, maybe you should talk a little bit about how you got into this in the first place.
Sure. I got into this in the first place I've been baking gingerbread for my family for 15 years.
Oh,
And I bake and assemble the houses. The family arrives the day after Thanksgiving, and we have a contest. And that contest has a theme, usually a 6-hour time limit, and a judge. And at the end, the owner is adorned with silly things like a crown or feather boa or whatever. And last year's winner hands off the trophy. And I've had such fun with this that I started baking and selling gingerbread houses for others to provide a positive experience. But I feel like we've just gone off topic here. Where were we going with this?
Just your styles.
Oh, the styles.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's such a wide spectrum of ways to experience gingerbread, from offering or purchasing a kit with a certain amount of candies in it and just assembling.
yeah.
And from there, you can go from baking your own gingerbread and baking in molds, or using a template, or pattern making, like some people are really good at over here. And I fall into the category of baking in molds, and Mary
Okay.
falls into the category of exquisite pattern making.
Okay.
So, yes.
And
Well,
sometimes not patterns, too. Just free form.
Yeah. Well, we want to hear about your molds and your pattern making, but I also just wanted to respond. What a great holiday tradition now that's been going on for 15 years, I think you said,
It
Myra?
is.
What a great way to get your family together, doing something festive and creative.
Yes.
And it sounds as though, you have your own, you've come up with categories and themes and crowns. It just sounds like a whole lot of fun.
We've had so much fun with it, and
Yeah.
that's also part of the reason why I started my gingerbread baker, was
Yeah.
to provide that positive baking experience and decorating experience for others, and in hopes that whether they are decorating with a family time or a girls' night or like a team bonding experience, that they collectively have a good time and they enjoy, they're making something.
And you have a creative product at the end.
So,
Right.
yes.
We should
Yeah.
show that picture. The photo number 1.
Photo
Is it
number
your-
1.
Myra's family at work.
There we
right?
go.
Photo number 1 on the screen.
Is it on?
And since
Okay.
some people will be listening, could you describe for people listening on the radio what we're looking at?
Sure. So what you're looking at is my dining room table, filled with houses, candies, and a lot of people busy at work. Yes.
Evidence of the fun.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so Mary, we need to hear about the patterns.
Oh, yeah. I think that our family got started when, a little bit before Mike and I became parents. I built my first gingerbread house. It's something that I've always thought that I wanted to do, but never seemed to have time to get into it, so tried the first one. And then our daughter came along, and we had experienced the Strawberry Bank gingerbread contest, and thought that, maybe we'll have a hand at that. So starting with buildings, but very soon after that, after a couple of years of doing buildings like firehouse and a school, we veered off and started doing other kinds of structures. And some of our friends wanted to get in on the action, so it ended up being 4 families doing this, not all on the same day, but over the course of a season. And we like to get together also. The weekend after Thanksgiving seemed to be an ideal time to do this, and we'd make something and put it up in the contest in Portsmouth. And but we got to asking the kids, who were grade schoolers at the time, what would you like to make? What would be your fantasy for this year? And we would get answers like, oh, a princess tower, or
Oh, sure.
or it's something that was not
Barbie's house.
no right angles involved sometimes. So we went through traditional houses. Maybe if Maeve could show photo number 2, that's an example of just a traditional, what I call a traditional gingerbread house. But this is a contemporary. This is not a Hansel and Gretel style.
Yeah.
So this one might look familiar to you, Mary, because it's right around the corner from where you live.
Yes, I
And
recognize
yes,
the porch, and Luke is there.
Luke.
Your nice dog.
yeah, the dog is on the front porch. So this is
So sweet.
So sweet.
So this is our yellow house with the beagle on the front porch. And then the next one is photo number 3, is another traditional house, and I say that mainly because it's a building with right angles, and if all goes well, it's right angles. And this is just a little Irish cottage with the
With the thatched Triscuit roof.
Those might be the breakfast cereal. The oatmeal squares are used for the thatching on the roof. So that's another one. But then I like to do vehicles. So there's a vehicle in photo number 4.
Yes, that
And
is.
this was inspired by a teacher at Lily's school whose father had written a book about his childhood in Europe and the summer that he ran off with the gypsies.
No way.
Yes,
Sure, that's
it was a
perfect.
fascinating book. And so I read that, and I thought, I'll make a gypsy caravan, also because the name of the store at the Cape Ann Waldorf School was called the Enchanted Caravan.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, so I made this gypsy caravan, and inside it's lighted, and there are shelves to show the wares that the school store was selling, and that would be things like yarn and wax crayons and.
Oh, so there's a lot of details.
There's a lot of little details, and I'm always fascinated by. I guess it's sort of a peeping Tom kind of dynamic. If people can see inside
it's
and
like
they
a
can
diorama.
see details, then it does make it fun. And I always love to get the structure done and then be able to have lots of time to do the little details, but there's never enough time. I always am wishing for another 24 hours. If only I had one more day, I could add so many more details to this.
Oh my
No, that's
goodness.
yes,
So there's another view of the gypsy
Yeah, there it
caravan
is
that
from the
shows
front.
the interior.
And you can see the windows with the lights from inside.
Right.
Shining
Toys,
through.
books, dolls,
Yes.
wool. Oh,
It's
that's
lovely.
So cool.
Mm-hmm. So, and then, let's see, one year, Irene asked for an Arabian tent. She wanted to make an Arabian tent because her family celebrates the Feast of the Three Kings on January 6th. And so this is all about the journey of the kings. And
Yes.
and you might not think there's any gingerbread in there because it's mostly the interior structure is made of gingerbread cookies.
Okay.
And that's holding up the tent canvas. And the tent canvas is actually made of marshmallow fondant. So, and Irene painted the marshmallow fondant with the colorful stripes
Oh, that's
to make the
beautiful.
Arabian tent, and then put some camels in front of it. So,
Yeah, indeed. I love the camels. And
Yeah.
I like the backdrop, too, against the night sky.
yeah.
So that's beautiful.
So then, Jessie, one year, asked for a Volkswagen bus. And that is it up, Mary? Okay, good, the Volkswagen bus. And, I gulped when we got that request to do that because, we had no method at the time. So we were just inventing a method. And I'll tell you what it is. Maybe the next picture shows the interior.
Oh, yes, you can see the struts.
So you can see inside there.
Yeah.
And what that is essentially, if you think of an ice cream sandwich as being 2 cookies and the ice cream in the middle, this is 2 gingerbread cookies, and what's in the middle is basically the Rice Krispies marshmallow treats mixture that we're all familiar with.
Of course.
In this case, the photo is showing Cocoa Krispies, Cocoa Crispy marshmallow mixture.
It's a color match. For
and so it's whatever is getting stale in the cabinet. That's what you throw it in, and bind it with marshmallows, and then the royal icing, makes the sandwich all hold together. So we just that's the interior construction of that, and then the chassis is covered with fondant, of course, the main ingredient. And the biggest challenge of this was doing the windows, and especially the curved windshield. So that was very much a trial and error thing. Now that's about 10 years ago, so I think I'd probably do it differently now. You learn. We tend to choose projects each year based on what technique we wanted to try out.
Yeah, sure.
So one year you're learning about candy windows, and another year you're learning about modeling chocolate and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
That's very impressive.
so thanks.
Yeah. Well, tell us about, when you've been talking about some of the challenges that you've encountered, are there other challenges that you'd like to tell us about, and particularly how you overcame them?
Well, you talked a little bit about the baking challenges and the timing, trying to get time. I mean, one of the things with cookies is just timing, isn't it?
Yes, but I feel like one of the other challenges we face, in particular working from a mold, is either adding to your house or subtracting from your house. If you're adding to your house, you have to look at food in a different way as you're going through the grocery store. In other words, if you take a sugar cone and you put it on one end of your house, you now have a steeple for a church. And if you take two, you have one on each side of your roof, you now have turrets for a castle.
Yes.
And if you stack them and place them on the side of the house, you now have a silo for the barn. Graham crackers, and as you had mentioned, the Rice Krispie treats are other great building materials. Graham crackers you can use for building a patio or a porch, a garage. Rice Krispies are very moldable for creating curved surfaces.
Yeah, right.
And they're also great for altering your landscape.
Yeah.
So you can really do a lot.
So they give you lots of
with
textures
those two.
and terrains.
And then as far as for subtracting from your house, cutting out windows to make them larger. We've had a decorator cut a hole through the roof because her gingerbread house was being decorated as a tree house. So she had a tree trunk coming right up through. You can also remove a front wall to create an open air, like a surf shop, with surfboards. And then cutting into the gingerbread. It's very risky, but it's also very rewarding.
Do you use an X-Acto knife?
They do, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Because I figured you want the precision. You don't want fault lines.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I say
royal icing, yeah, so you could do a repair
you do
job.
have a little, yes.
Yeah.
I have found the pumpkin carving tools that they sell around Halloween to be pretty helpful in sawing out holes in the gingerbread too.
Yeah. Well, it's unlimited creativity, clearly.
Yeah, it is. And can I just add, I truly believe that gingerbread is an art form. It's a sculpture, and food is the medium.
Yeah.
And a lot of successful houses use many of the basic elements of art and principles of design. So how you handle line, shape, form, color, pattern, what you repeat. a lot of that comes into play in a successful piece, and as Mary has proven with some of the pictures that we have just seen.
And the scale, you've got to get the scale,
the proportion,
proportions right. Too,
There are sometimes when you want the proportion to be as is, and other times you want to exaggerate the proportion to enhance your design. So it's you've just shown some wonderful examples.
Well, thanks
of your work.
Thank you. And it's not all mine.
I understand.
Normally
it's a group effort.
So
I understand.
let me show the picture of the. It's number 9, and this is a photo from 1910 that the Historical Society, the Museum of Old Newbury, had, and I came across this, and. One family that I work with, that's Christine and her children, the Todd Youngs. We made a replica in gingerbread of this life-saving station that was on Plum Island.
Yes, I've seen pictures of it before.
Yes, it's a 1910 photo, and apparently, I just learned this, that the building is still there and it's now a residence. And I have not
I did not
driven.
know that.
I just learned that. I have not driven out there to see it yet, but it was moved, I think, from the original location, and it's still there. But speaking of proportions and trying to get things to scale and making patterns, that's part of the challenge, but it's also, for me, the part of the fun is trying to figure out, from looking at a photo of a building, how to make a pattern so you can create something that looks like it. So the next picture, if you would.
Oh my gosh, there it is.
And there's the gingerbread replica of the life-saving station, and it's been very much gingerbreadified because it's not.
Well, that's only fair.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Is that you try to make it. You try to make it legible, and to be able to tell what it is, and to be able to tell that it's a replica of the historical building. But then, flight of fantasy then follows, and you're decorating in a fun way and getting a bit exuberant. And so, to me, that's really part of the goal. Yeah. So.
Well, and that's amazing.
Well, really, that one I really
that's
enjoyed.
The engineer and the architect in you.
Well, I think maybe speaking of washing dishes and cleaning up, maybe the funnest part for me sometimes is the beforehand part, where I'm just sitting comfortably on the sofa, drawing things on graph paper and doing the planning,
working out the puzzle.
And that was it. And so.
Well, I'm curious because this one also has lighting in it.
Yes.
And now, okay, how do you do that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good question.
It's electricity.
Yeah, because that has really been one of the biggest challenges. But we love to have lighting in them.
Oh, it's magical.
So sometimes we'll spend a long time just trying to figure out where the lighting is going to go and how it's going to be supported. Because if you're participating in a contest, typically the rule is that everything has to be edible, made of edible materials.
Yeah, of course.
And they do allow an exception for the lighting, the light elements themselves. So the wire and the bulbs are okay, but you can't support them with cardboard or wood or anything that you might.
You have to support them with something edible.
You support them with gingerbread,
royal icing.
Yes.
I prop them up. I prop them up with fondant sometimes, or stick. The fondant can be like the putty, or the modeling chocolate can be like the putty that sticks it on. I haven't tried chewing gum. I don't think that would hold up. But
no one would want to eat that.
No one wants to eat any of this by the time we're done with it. But it's the lighting that we used to use was always just the string of Christmas tree lights. That was what was available. But those lights are very unwieldy. The wires go whichever way they want. They won't go the way that you want them to go. Now, luckily for all of us, they have much easier lights on the market. They're terrific. They're these little tiny fairy lights
Yes,
that
that's
come
right.
on wires,
Right,
very
yeah.
thin wires that will bend
Very
wherever you
pliable.
want them.
Yes.
And they come with batteries, or you can buy the plug-in version that has a transformer so that
Okay.
you can use it on regular household current. So either way, but those
Okay.
are a real boon, because otherwise you're spending a lot of time trying to
Yeah.
figure out how you're going to arrange
And
your
the
lights.
little fairy lights, easily mountable with royal icing, I presume.
Oh, easily they are. Yes.
So-
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, thank you for
So-
that explanation. It's just so appealing. It
They
really
are.
adds to
No,
the
it brings
magical quality of the structure. So, well, I'd love to hear each of you talk a bit about, you've talked about some of the creative materials you use, not just gingerbread, but other things. But there's other things, I'm sure. How do you find real world, quote unquote, construction materials that are also edible? How do you find things that, for example, become the counterpart of a wooden structure? What's your method?
Finding things that would be counterpart of a wooden structure. Well, I mean, I mostly will bake gingerbread if
Yeah.
it's going to be wood, but I've also, for example, one year I wanted to do an arched ceiling, like a vaulted ceiling.
Yeah.
And so we used a substance called gum paste, which is basically sugar and a couple of other ingredients in there. I think glycerin, something like that.
Okay.
And they call it gum paste, and they call it pastillage also. So
Pastillage.
and so that you can use like you would plaster of Paris, and you can
Oh,
just
interesting.
mold it, and it lasts for years. I still have the piece hanging around because I keep these things so that I can learn how long they last and how they behave over a long period of storage in my basement, so
Yeah.
and so you can make cone shapes with that. You can make anything, and
Yeah.
also pastillage dries very hard, like plaster of Paris would, and you can make very detailed figurines with it. If you can make a figurine, I'm not very good at making figurines.
But in theory,
that's-
you could.
Yes,
In other
you
words,
could. That's the
just
ma-
as you would use plaster of Paris on a mold.
That's the material
it's
to use. Yeah.
Edible too. You might break a tooth on it. But
Technically.
it's edible, so it follows the rules.
That's right.
Fair enough.
Yes, technically edible. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious to find out then, when you have the ginger making parties or contests that you have, what are some of the other materials besides gingerbread that you supply people with? Because some of these have windows, they have all kinds of extra kind of ornaments. So what do you give people to work with besides the gingerbread itself?
For us, I basically host the competition. So I set our family up. Each decorator has a house fully assembled, a pastry bag full
Yeah.
of icing ready to go with
Yeah.
different tips. And they have paper towels, a cutting utensil. They are responsible for bringing their own food and
Okay.
shopping for their own food because they have chosen a specific theme or idea to try to
Yeah.
execute. So those are my basics.
Okay.
And then I refill pastry bags and I walk around and I consult throughout the day. I'm also a former art education teacher.
Okay.
So I enjoy helping people through the creative process. So I walk around and say, what are you trying to do here? Is this working? And trying to help solve problems to help them.
A little
achieve
fondant
their-
here, a little royal icing there.
Sure.
Just in time, I'm
Yes.
sure.
So that's what I supply. But
Yeah.
Mary's process is again very different. She's created this elaborate pattern and has a vision in mind. So
Yeah, and we're just playing really sometimes, and we're trying to learn about. So it's or like a little laboratory sometimes, and so we had to learn how to make the candy windows. That's very popular. Crushing the hard candy and melting it in the oven. And,
I was curious how you did that.
Yeah,
So, okay.
yeah, and sometimes you can do it right into your gingerbread cookie, so it's already sealed into
okay.
the opening in your gingerbread cookie. And other times you can just put a sheet of tin foil on a baking sheet, put a whole bunch of crushed candy, hard candy on there, put it in the oven for 5 minutes, and then you get a puddle of hard candy, and then you can break it up and use it for your windows, and just glue them on behind the window with your royal icing, of course. So that's another thing. But we play with different things. You know, we'll put some caramels into the microwave and melt them, and then use those to model things. I had Devin at my house one year, and he wanted to make Fort Ticonderoga.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
with 139 guns, and he made 14 batches of Rice Krispies mixture to create the ramparts of the fort, and then he sat patiently and made. I don't know how many cannons he actually made, but many, with short segments of pasta, of spaghetti, and
okay.
caramel to hold them together. The caissons were made of melted
So there's an
caramels.
aspect of chemistry lab.
It's aspect of
Also.
chemistry lab, and there's an aspect of sandbox,
Right.
just playing around with all this
Right.
stuff, you know.
But it's all
And,
fun.
It is
It's
pretty
all
fun,
play
I
and
have
fun.
to say. Yeah, and we're learning a lot. I mean, I think that this is. I know that it's a lot of work to put these together sometimes, these little enterprises where we've got a whole bunch of people building gingerbread. But what a learning experience it can
Yeah.
be, both for adults and kids, just to try to
Absolutely.
figure out the process of planning and executing and making a vision that you have, a mental idea, and making it a reality in gingerbread
Yeah.
and sugary
Right.
substances. And, you know, you can start with the math and the planning
Yeah,
and
right.
the making of patterns, and you can take it all the way through the baking process, which is science, and then you finally get to the art part and
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
details. But it's I think it's a great STEM activity for teachers who are looking
absolutely.
for, you know,
Right.
yeah, because it's got the science, the technology,
The
trying
engineering,
to
the
the
math,
engineering, trying
right.
to make things hold
The
up.
experimentation.
Yeah, and one thing that's still on our agenda, we did make a ship in 2017. That's picture number 11, and this shows.
Oh my!
This
Yes,
shows
we did make
the
a ship.
stern,
Very impressive ship.
and
Big
that's the stern, and that's a work in progress in this picture. And I don't know how Myra's name happened to end up on the stern. I do know how. I didn't even know Myra in 2017. But it was funny, I came across the picture last night. The reason that that's on there is that the ship is named St. Nicholas, just
I
to
see
give
that
it a little Christmassy, you know, aspect. But St. Nicholas was from Myra in Turkey, and that's why we put
Oh,
Myra.
isn't that
where the ship
Oh,
came from.
nice.
What a fun fact.
Yeah, right. So, and then we did finish the ship and put it in the contest. And
Oh, it's beautiful.
yeah, and I have to acknowledge that the whole idea of doing this was my friend Margie's idea, and her family, Ian and Jesse and Ada. Everybody got together, and we all made the ship with, of course, help from my consulting engineer, who's my husband, Mike. Yeah, and I think Lily even got in, my daughter Lily, on some of the details of what's gone on the deck of the ship. And those sails, we're looking at a brigantine, for those who can't see the pictures yet. We're looking
they
at a
can
brigantine
visualize.
ship, and it's a square rigger. So there's two sails, and those are made out of
Beautiful curved
pastillage.
sails. Made of
And
what? The
Pastillage,
Okay,
the
yes,
plaster
right,
Paris
moldable,
counterpart,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And the thing is that you have to plan this out, because that stuff takes a couple of days to dry before
Okay,
you can handle
yeah,
it, so you
right.
have to be careful.
Let me ask you this: How long do you spend on these creations?
Oh, I hate that
and
question.
what is your crew? How many people are helping with these? Because
Well,
these are just unbelievable.
Well, you know, we would typically have one family at a time. We tried having more than that, and it gets a little confusing, especially if you're working on more than one project at a time, which,
Sure.
that was a bit chaotic. So we learned from that to just try to focus on one project at a time. But it's really hard to say how many hours go into it.
Yeah.
And
Well, safe to say a lot, but they're fun hours.
They are
Yeah.
fun hours.
And they're collaborative
yeah.
hours. That's
Yeah.
another fun thing that you're working with your
Yeah.
family or friends to create something that is a triumph.
Yes.
Well,
So,
and I think that for me personally, a lot of this has to do with celebrating a holiday by indulging the time and indulging
Yeah.
ourselves in doing something that's purely for
yeah.
fun.
Well put, Mary.
Yeah, and so if we can go back to the reason for the Port Gingerbread Festival
Yes,
for a minute.
please. Yeah.
I personally hope that having this event and bringing an audience will inspire people to become gingerbread makers, bakers, and builders, because it is awfully fun and it's a great way to spend time with your family and to feel that
Yeah.
you're celebrating the holiday together in a new and different and very creative way.
Yeah.
And so once you've put in the time and you've built something, you really want to have people see it. You don't
Of
want
course.
you don't want to have it
Of
just
course.
sit in your own living room or on your dining room sideboard and not get seen. So it's
Yeah.
it's wonderful when you can have a contest
Yeah.
and have some recognition
Right.
for all the effort and just have people come by and admire it. For me, I'm completely fulfilled if I hear one child say, "Oh, that's cool." That's all. That's all I need. Yeah.
But it's also a nice event to visit during the holiday season.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like it's a nice activity.
That's the exhibition
To see
aspect.
everything.
Right. So
Yeah.
this will be right downtown,
Right.
and it will be free, and it
Yeah.
will be fairly near to the Santa's workshop. So it'll be
Right,
a
near Brown
short
Square.
walk
Yep.
if people take their children
Yeah.
down to see Santa.
Yeah.
Then they can just walk right down a pleasant street and get to
Right.
the Central Congregational Church and see the gingerbread exhibit. And we will have judges coming to judge the creations on Friday afternoon just before we open to the public.
Okay.
And at 4 o'clock, the doors will open. And then the popular voting will begin. So the judges are going to
okay.
make awards, but also the people get
Audience
to
favorites?
determine audience favorites,
Okay.
the people's choice. And those, and everyone who comes will be given an opportunity to vote on those,
Wonderful.
their favorites. And then those awards will be announced on Sunday
Excellent.
afternoon. Right.
Excellent.
Right. And thanks to the local business sponsors, we'll have some nice prizes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
That's great. Incentives.
Yes, yeah. Well, the whole festival is being financially supported by our business community. It was led off by a nice grant from the Institution
Wonderful.
for Savings.
Yeah.
And their faith in a brand new project was lovely and really, I think, inspired and gave other businesses the confidence
Wonderful.
to donate as well. So that's been
Well,
valuable.
Mary and Myra, what are the competition categories? So people can start thinking about what they might
Okay.
want to do that would fit into one of the categories.
Well, the categories are family and children. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, it's the groups, not necessarily. Yes, so it's the families and children,
Mm-hmm.
youth groups, teens, adults, and masters.
Great. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. We have a couple of masters here. So,
Yes.
and that's only fair to have a separate category.
I was gonna say, I feel like that should be emphasized.
Yeah.
That you can submit a gingerbread house. That it can be a kit with a set amount of candies, or
Yeah.
you can get into elaborate pattern
Yeah.
making. Like so not to be intimidated.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
you don't have
It's
to be a
very
certain
inclusive.
age. Yes.
The idea is to have fun, bring what you constructed, and show off.
Exactly, and share it. Yes.
Right, and we on the website we tried to show pictures of the range of possibilities and illustrations of various skill levels
Yeah.
because we want just everybody to try it,
Wonderful.
and not feel that they have to be up to a certain level. Yeah.
And know that if you try it, you might become addicted.
Yes.
You might.
Well, so when does the festival start? I know when the exhibition is in December, but when can people start their entries?
It's actually, to me, the festival has already begun.
Okay.
Because of the planning that's going
Yeah, of
on out
course.
there. I
Yeah.
know, I've been hearing from people what they're
Oh, good.
planning. And I've been hearing about it in the swimming pool. I've been hearing about it in my emails.
Word is
and-
out.
Yes, word is out. And so, to me, the festival happens not just December 8th through
Right.
10th. It happens in the kitchens all around
Right.
as people are getting together with family and friends, and maybe even in blissful solitude to create something out of your imagination.
Yep.
And to me, that is part of the festival. Now,
Absolutely.
Myra and I are involved in a couple of workshops too, because
Oh.
we're wanting to, spread the joy and help other people overcome their fears of building gingerbread houses and experience some of the materials that we have found to be fun to
Right.
work with. Do you want to tell about the Girls Inc. workshop that's coming up?
Sure.
Oh, they're a great organization.
Yes. On November 10th, there will be 12 girls coming to decorate, and we're going to be supplying some basic materials for them to work with, and as far as roof design, landscape, and whatnot.
Right.
We give some piping demonstrations so that they learn a skill and they can practice that. They'll each decorate their own house, and then Mary has prepared a very large board for all 12 of these houses to be placed
Wonderful.
on. So
Oh,
they
that's
will
great.
place their houses, and then we
Yeah.
will decorate a little bit further as far as working with the landscape, adding
Wonderful.
trees or outbuildings, other things.
Great.
So in the end, it should be just one big presentation.
Right.
So that's
That's
being
great.
sponsored by Girls Inc., which is an affiliate of the Jean Geiger
Yes.
Crisis Center.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
We're also working with the Boy Scouts, the
Oh, great.
local Troop 251 in Newburyport,
Wonderful.
who have been all in on this. They have offered and are making wooden platforms for people to build their gingerbread houses on, because sometimes, at least what should happen when you get an idea of something you want to build in gingerbread, you need to consider right away, what are you going to build it on? And you need something
Yeah,
that's
because you're going to transport it. Yeah.
firm and steady
Yeah.
and strong enough, and that won't be bowing in the middle when you
Right.
get that weight on there. And so it's not always convenient for people to to travel to a lumber store and get a
Right.
piece of plywood, and
Right.
they might not have anything hanging around in their basement. So the Boy Scouts have solved that problem for everybody. And
Hooray, Boy Scouts. Well done.
so the
That's great.
information is on our website, but all you need to do is email and tell us that you want one, and then you go
Okay.
pick it up at Gordon Rugg on State Street.
Right where Gordon Rugg is.
Right, and they've got them available there for $15. Very nice platforms, and the boys have learned woodworking from the Scoutmasters in the
Great.
process of building these platforms, and their reward is going to be a gingerbread building session.
Wonderful.
Right, and we're going to, I won't tell you what it is, let it be a surprise.
All
but
right.
Yes, but that's going to happen next Monday night, is
Wonderful.
build their gingerbread entry for the competition, right?
Well,
So
I mean, I'm impressed at the amount of planning you've done and how eloquent you've been about the challenges, the creativity, and the joy of gingerbread construction. And you've also made it a very community-wide, inclusive kind of event,
Yeah.
which is such a festive thing to do around the holidays. So thank you for all the work you've done. It just sounds wonderful. We're running out of time for today, but let's close by reviewing the essentials.
Okay.
So give us the website, because there's a ton of information on the website. Pretty much any questions people might have as a follow-up will be there. So what is the website people should go
Okay,
for?
right. The website is www.portgingerbreadfestival.org. The event is sponsored by Greater Newburyport Village as the presenting sponsor. That is an organization, an all-volunteer group of seniors in the community helping people to live long, well, and happily and healthily in their homes. The dates are December 8th through 10th, and it's outreach to the entire community. We'd like everybody to consider building, but everybody to come and see the exhibition on those dates.
Come see the exposition and vote for your favorite.
Exactly. Right.
It can be participatory even if you haven't built a construction. So, well, Mary, Myra, thank you so much for coming to visit the show today. It's been so much fun. I've learned a lot from talking to you. I'm so impressed at the pictures you brought. I so appreciate your bringing those. And it just sounds like a wonderful event that seems to me to be destined to become a holiday tradition. So if you want to hold that up.
There we go. Those are the posters that are now all over the place. They're
Yeah.
all up. So
now everybody will catch their eye on them, know what to look for. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It sounds like just a ton of fun, and I thank you for coming on the show, but thank you also for sharing your knowledge and your experience and your inspirational talk about how much fun it is and why it's fun.
thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
All right. That's all for today, everybody. Please join us again next Thursday at 9 for the morning show. Till then, think about what kind of construction you might want to make out of gingerbread and go to the website and learn more. Bye, everybody. Farewell.
Are you looking for something fun to do this holiday season? The Port Gingerbread Festival is a family-friendly contest and exhibition of gingerbread creations made by people of all ages and skill levels, from beginner to expert. Join us at Central Congregational Church in Newburyport, December 8th to December 10th. This event is presented by Greater Newburyport Village and is free and open to all. Enter the contest yourself or just come and vote for your favorites. Find full details at our website, portgingerbreadfestival.org.